Well, hello. Yeah. So why do I think Ireland are going to win? There's a few factors. I think the 7-1 split for France, I think that's extremely risky, very dangerous. Ireland have experienced South Africa with the 7-1 split. They beat them, albeit Ireland had a 5-3 split. They're a 6-2 split now. Yeah, but I still think it's even 6-2 is risky. Any injury, we saw with Scotland, there's a Finn Russell and Darcy Graham with a head knock. They had to go off. That totally changed. I think Ireland would have beaten Scotland anyway, but it definitely made it easier for Ireland. So a 7-1 split, that's a big risk. I mean, any of your back line goes down, and saying that Dupont they seemed insistent that he can play at 10. Now, I'm sure he can do a job at 10, but he's a world-class 9. Absolutely world-class at 9. And he's maybe an okay 10. So, as we saw when Leinster played Toulouse 2 years ago, they went a 6-2 split, Toulouse did, and they went down an injured player, and the first was at 20 minutes, and they moved Dupont to 10, and he was nowhere near as effective or as good. So people say, "Oh, he's so good, he can play across the backline, whatever." That may be true, that he might be able to do a job across the backline, but he's a world-class 9, and he can do a job at all the other positions, but that's all. He's not world-class. He's only world-class as a 9. He's not world-class as a 10. We saw that with Gibson Park against England when he was moved out to the wing because of an injury with the 6-2 split. Murray was at 9 and Gibson Park was on the wing for 30 plus minutes. He was okay. He was able to do a job there on the wing, but you're missing out on his ability to control the game at 9. So I think that's a big advantage to Ireland. I think Ireland are a fitter team as well. With Caelan Doris back, he has the highest work rate of any player in the world, according to the stats. I think as well, people are saying, and rightfully so, I do agree that Sam Prendergast is a weakness defensively, which he is. But France have a weakness at 13 as well. They haven't been great defensively either. So it's kind of tit for tat there. I think Ireland's kicking game is probably the best in the competition, probably followed by France actually. You've got Dupont, who's an excellent kicker, and Ramos as well. But you got James Lowe, Prendergast, Jamie Osborne, and of course Gibson Park. They're all on top of their game from a kicking perspective. Really good. And also talking about kicking, I think Ireland have the edge in the aerial duels. I think Keenan, Lowe, and Osborne have the edge, and Henshaw's very good in the air as well. So they all have an edge aerially on their French counterparts. And since that new law change, I think that's definitely been a game changer for Ireland anyway. So Ireland has become more of a kicking team, an off the ball team, less possession team because of that new rule change. They're very good in the air, and I think they're going to really kick the ball a lot. France kick the ball a lot, but I don't know if they do as much contestables. I think they kick deep for territory, not necessarily contestables. So I think Ireland have an edge in the kicking game and have an edge in the aerial battle. Now, where France might have an edge is obviously their physicality, their bigger team. They have an edge possibly at scrum time, although I don't think, I'm not overly worried. I think Bealham is class. I think he's been very good this Six Nations competition. I think Will Greenwood, is it who said that he's his player of the tournament actually. So whether or not he'll be after this game, I don't know. But anyway, I have no worries in the scrum. The only issue scrum-wise is the last kind of 20 minutes of the game. So there's a few injuries. So Kelleher's a big loss. I think Kelleher has been exceptionally good. I think in some aspects, a better player than Sheehan. I think Sheehan is a flashier player. I think he's probably more of an X-factor player. Like that looping pass he did against England and to finish it, he has that in his locker. He's like a winger almost. But Kelleher at the nuts and bolts as a scrummager and as I think as well at ruck time, I think Kelleher is a better player. Actually, I think he's very aggressive. So we're missing. That's a big loss. Furlong, well, I mean, he hasn't played all tournaments, so yes, it would have been great having him there. But it's not so much of a big loss because he just hasn't been there. So obviously, I would have preferred Furlong coming off the bench in the last 20 odd minutes. But anyway, he's not there, nor is Kelleher. But Rob Herring, I think he's a decent player. You don't need to be flashy. You don't need to just do the basics well, lock out the scrum, accurate in the line out, throwing, and do your stuff at the breakdown. That's all you need to do. You don't need to be brilliant. And he's well capable of that. He's experienced as well. So I'm not overly worried there. Clarkson, a lot of people are worried about Clarkson because of what happened against Wales. But if I'm no scrum expert, and most referees, you could argue, aren't scrum experts. But I've heard from different pundits online that a lot of those calls were they could have gone either way, really, just an interpretation of the referee. So I'm not overly worried there. And it's not as if Ireland were scrummed off if anything, Ireland had a stronger scrum. They were kind of going forward, maybe a bit too much going forward, actually, if anything. But anyway, so I'm not overly concerned there. I think a lot depends on the referee. So France probably do have an edge there, but not necessarily a game-changing edge. So as I said, both teams kick. I think Ireland have a slight edge there, especially with the aerial battle. And I think also that 7-1 split, I think that's extremely high risk. High reward, but also high risk. I can foresee an injury happening or a yellow card in the back line, which could happen easily. It could happen to Ireland as well. Could easily happen to Ireland as well. That's the risk, but the risk is heightened when you have a 7-1 split. So those are the reasons why I think Ireland will probably win. Also, you must factor in home advantage. Ireland have won, is it 23 out of the last 24 home games? So that speaks volumes. And even last November, when they weren't playing well, they were still winning. They lost that one game against New Zealand where they were awful. They made so many errors and uncharacteristic errors, and it wasn't all due to New Zealand pressure. There was a lot of stupid errors, individual errors as well. But anyway, against against Australia, Argentina, and Fiji, they won tight games against those teams, playing poorly, but they still won. So, and people also, another factor to consider, I think, is that everyone's gone on about how good they play against Italy, France. That is, they did, but Italy were awful. In the first half they were competitive enough, but I mean, they just fell off tackles. It was like a training session. So I don't know how to gauge that. And their first game against Wales, Wales were again awful. I think the new Welsh team, players playing in the correct positions, and I mean that Welsh team that played against Ireland 2 weeks ago, I think France would still have beaten that Welsh team, but Wales would have scored points. France wouldn't have. I don't think would have scored as many points. And also the fact that they played Italy and was like a training session, I don't think they got tested. And I think that's a good thing for Ireland. Ireland were tested against Wales. They had to dig deep, and they did. And they won. They beat Wales in the end. But there was a good 20 minutes there where Ireland were, very much under the pump, and they were losing by 8 points at one stage as well. But they had that grit, mental grit and toughness, and they know how to grind out games even when they're not winning. And there's just something flaky about this French team. I don't think they're as mentally strong as Ireland are. I think Ireland are a better team. You could argue France are better individuals, arguably, but Ireland, I think, are a better team. They're mentally stronger, which is another factor. I think. Now, I think it'll be a tight game. I think it'll probably, if Ireland do win, I think it'll be probably less than 7 points, probably between 3 and 7 points, something like that. And France could well win. I mean, everything I said, I mean, an injury to Ireland in the back line, and that can mess things up. Anyway, I'll leave it there. For myself and my dog, Sunny here, we'll say goodbye. Slán go fóill, and Éide I bú.